welcome to a very fun video because today I am basically going to be spending this entire video talking about my top 10 favorite books that I've read in 2023. So obviously I'm so here for this video because we're just going to be sitting here and talking about 10 books that I think you guys need to read hopefully in 2024 if you guys haven't already read these, because I was obsessed with these books this year and it was really hard to pick my top 10, and this is also in no particular order either, but I'm really excited. So let's talk about the 10 books that I was just obsessed with in 2023 that were my absolute favorites. First up, we have One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I honestly think that this might actually be my favorite book of 2023 because, well, also this book got turned into a movie as well. I still haven't watched the movie, but I'm so excited to watch it because I adored this book. I hope the movie does the book justice because this book is like one of my favorite books that I have ever read. It is amazing. You guys know how I feel about TJR's books. So this is actually a love triangle situation, and I know not everyone loves love triangles. I do not like love triangles. The way that this book does it, so good. This book follows Emma. She married her high school sweetheart and they were so madly in love with each other. They were like literally the epitome of couple goals. Then Emma's husband Jesse goes on a helicopter, I think it was on their anniversary, their 1 year anniversary, and then he never comes back. But his body was never found, so everyone just assumes he's been dead. And we basically follow Emma as she's grieving the loss of the love of her life and her navigating this life alone. And then she bumps into Sam, who was actually one of her high school friends. This is like a couple years later. She's finally ready to move on, and her and Sam get into a relationship, and Sam is like so sweet. He was just golden retriever energy and I just loved him. Emma is ready to move on with her life and now she's engaged to Sam. And then 3 years has passed since Jesse's disappearance. While she's at a dinner with her fiance and her parents, she gets a phone call, and who's on the phone? It's her ex-husband, Jesse. Turns out he's alive. He's been stuck on this island with absolutely no connection whatsoever, and now he's back. And now Emma is in the situation where she's just like, what do I do? I still technically have a husband, but I'm now engaged. I'm like a completely different person, and you're kind of stuck in a perspective of what to do. And the way that this book is written is just magic. Honestly, that's like the best way that I can describe this book, is pure magic. The way that this is written, the characters, and also at some points like you are as conflicted as Emma is. I was definitely happy with how this book ended, and I feel like this book was just so well written, and I just cannot recommend this book enough to you guys. It's like the best book that came out of 2023 for me. The way that this book was written, the way that the love triangle was actually portrayed, the way that grief was also represented in this book. I will say Taylor Jenkins Reid is one of like the best writers when it comes to like writing grief, because she writes it in such a realistic way, and this book definitely had me in my feels. So this is probably number 1 as my favorite book of 2023. Now this book definitely comes at no surprise because ever since I read this book back in February, I have been talking about it in multiple videos. So it definitely comes at no surprise that the next book I'm going to be talking about is X's and O's by Amy Lee. This is the second book in the Influencer series, but you don't actually have to read the first book to read the second book because they're interconnected standalones. I literally tabbed the heck out of this book. I sometimes even go back and reread specific annotations from this book because I just was so obsessed with this book when I first read it, and I still really adore this book. This is following a book influencer named Tara. She is an absolute hopeless romantic, but her love life is completely just no. It is not a vibe. And then she comes up with this idea, hey, why don't I try to create my own second chance romance trope? So she goes through a list of her past ex-boyfriends and she tries to see if she can rekindle an old flame, and she basically forces her hot firefighter roommate slash friend to help her out. And obviously you guys know where this goes. It is not a second chance romance because she ends up falling in love with her roommate and one of her best friends. And this book was just so sweet, especially because the guy in this book is kind of like a little bit of a player and he doesn't really believe in love, but like obviously he ends up falling in love with Tara, and I just loved their relationship. Trevor, who's the book boyfriend, ended up being like surprisingly one of my favorite book boyfriends. I did not expect to like him as much as I did, but I absolutely loved him. He's not a romantic at all, but Tara is a hopeless romantic, so he would do little sweet gestures because he would know that like she would be into it. And this book just gave me butterflies, made me feel giddy. It was just so cute. Like, it was just such a fun read. And if that's what you're looking for a fun, cute rom-com, this is for you. It is so good, especially because like the main character loves books. Like, she's a book influencer. Like, that was such a fun aspect to this book, and this was just a fun, good time. Then I have The Duel by L. Kennedy. This is the first book in the Off-Campus series, and it is an ice hockey romance, and you guys already know ice hockey romances are elite. They are my favorite. And this book was just so freaking good. This was, I think, my first 5-star read of the year as well, and it's still a book that I honestly still think about because I loved this book couple, and this world of Briar Yu was just phenomenal. It's also a college romance. So we follow Hannah and Garrett. Garrett is the captain of the hockey team, and he is just like college royalty basically. And Hannah is just this good girl, nerdy type of girl, but she's also a little sassy as well, which I love. I really related a lot to Hannah. Hannah's always had this crush on this guy on the football team, and she is also, like I said, a grade A student. And Garrett is at risk of being kicked out of the hockey team unless he can pass this assignment. So he gets help from Hannah. They make this deal where Garrett will help Hannah get the boy that she's been crushing on, and there's a little bit of a fake dating aspect as well in order for Hannah to get this guy's attention, and in exchange Hannah will tutor Garrett. It's also dual POV, which we love, a book that has both perspectives, because that was everything. Garrett was just like the ultimate book boyfriend. I think him and Nate Hawkins from Icebreaker, they are like my top 2 favorite book boyfriends, which is so funny because Nate is also a hockey player but in a different book series. But yeah, really love this. I also annotated this one as well. So good. Absolutely adore. This was just wholesome vibes. Hannah and Garrett were major couple goals, and loved this book. Garrett was also a major golden retriever cinnamon roll vibes. We love. Next up, we have The Fine Print by Lauren Asher, which is the first book in the Dreamland Billionaire series, and I also annotated this book as well. You know, if I've annotated a book, it is a really good one. So this is following Rowan and Zara. Rowan is this billionaire. His grandfather, I think it was, passes away, and in order for him to get his inheritance, he needs to take over Dreamland, which is basically like adult version of Disneyland, which was such a fun setting. I loved that. And he is asking his employees for all proposals of how they can make the Dreamland park better. And Zara submits a drunken proposal, and she ends up actually getting the role that Rowan is looking for. And Rowan is major grumpy vibes, and Zara is nothing but sunshine, but not sunshine in the cringe way. It's like the perfect amount of sunshine. And I related a lot to Zara as well. She's also a POC, and there's curvy girl rep, which I absolutely love. Yes, and Rowan is like the biggest grump of all grumps, and he doesn't believe in love, all of that stuff. And you know how the story goes. This is also in dual POV. This was just so good. I loved the setting. I loved the characters, the relationship between these two. So good. I loved this book. This is one of my favorites, obviously. Then I have 2 books by the same author, and it's actually part of the same series, but I had to mention both of them because they are both 2 of my favorite books of the year. I think I might talk about both of these together because they're in the same series. So the first one is Twisted Games, which is book 2 in the Twisted series, and the other one is Twisted Lies, which is book 4, aka the last book in the Twisted series. The Twisted series is an interconnected standalone series. We follow a group of 4 best friends, and each book follows a different girl and their romance. So Twisted Games, which is probably my favorite book in the series. I read this back in January, I think. Loved this. It's bodyguard princess romance trope, and I just love that forbidden romance aspect. It was so good. The spice in this book was also top tier. I think this book and Twisted Hate probably has like the best spice, but I just loved the plot line of this. It was so interesting. It was so different to the other 3 books because, you know, female main character is a princess, and like he's her bodyguard. Like, it's just so good. Like, oh, the forbidden like secrecy, like so good. I just enjoyed this book so much. Bridget, who's the princess, is also like major girl boss queen vibes. Adored this book. Also, you don't need to read the Twisted series in order. I personally recommend reading them in order for the better reading experience because the characters do overlap, but technically if you don't want to read certain books in the series, if you just want to read this book or another book from the series, you don't have to read the others, which I do like as well. And then the other one, which is the 4th book, Twisted Lies. Oh, this one is so good too. So this one is following following Stella and Christian. Their trope is fake dating, and this fake dating trope was such a fun vibe. Also, Stella is actually a fashion influencer, which I thought was really fun and interesting. I loved seeing like the social media influencer aspect, and she's also wanting to start her own fashion line, which was also another interesting side plot. There's also a stalker side plot as well, because Stella has a stalker and you kind of got that mystery aspect of who it is, that kind of suspense as well, which was really interesting. I also loved Christian and Stella together. These two books, favorite couples in the series for sure. Probably another reason why these two are my favorites from the Twisted series. But yeah, really enjoyed this one. It is a long one, but honestly, even though it was like almost 600 pages, it didn't feel that way at all, which is really interesting for a contemporary romance. This was also a good book to kind of step your toes into dark romance, because I'm more of a contemporary romance girly, but I do want to try a little bit of dark romance, and I feel like Twisted series was a good place to start. We have a cute, cozy little vibe of When in Rome by Sarah Adams. I mean, doesn't this book already give you cozy vibes? Just such a comfort book for me. It is a grumpy sunshine, small town romance vibe. We also have a One of Us is Famous trope, because we follow Amelia, who is a famous pop singer, and Noah, who is this little pie shop owner in the small town. Amelia basically wants to have a little bit of a getaway before she goes on tour, so she goes to Rome, but not Rome as in Rome, Italy. She goes to Rome, Kentucky, and her car breaks down in front of Noah's house and she has no way of going back home, so Noah begrudgingly allows her to stay at his place while she gets her life together and can go back home and gets her car fixed and stuff. This book reminded me so much of the Hannah Montana movie, even though it's not super similar to the Hannah Montana movie, but it gave me the same vibes of that, like, you know, Amelia escaping to this small town. I don't know, like, it was just so good. Also, this small town with all the side characters was just phenomenal. I just love that everyone like respected Amelia's privacy and kind of like made sure the paparazzi wouldn't be coming after her, and like this whole small town was just found family vibes, and I loved it so much. It was just so cozy and so good, so cute. It was just wholesome vibes all around. Then of course we have another ice hockey romance, and that is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. So this is Nate Hawkins that I was talking about, who is top tier with Garrett Graham as my favorite book boyfriends. I just clearly have a thing for ice hockey players. This is a reverse Grumpy Sunshine trope. Follow Anastasia, who is a figure skater, and Nate, who is captain of the hockey team. So it's kind of similar to the deal, but like not really. So the hockey team and the figure skaters are forced to share the same rink at the college that they go to, and none of them are happy about it. And then Anastasia's figure skater partner injures himself, and Nate basically helps her out by being like a fill-in skating partner. And this also starts off initially as friends with benefits, but then they end up becoming actual friends and like lovers. This book does communication really, really well. These characters know how to communicate with each other, and I love that. They're so respectful to each other as well, always there for each other. And I also really like how this book portrayed diet culture and mental health, anxiety, panic attacks, all of that. I feel like this book really dealt with that really, really well. This book was just healthy relationship vibes for sure, and I loved it. Then we have It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is the first book in the Ballinger sisters duet, and we follow Piper and Brendan. It's major Grumpy Sunshine vibes. It's a small fishing town as well. That's where the setting is, and I loved this. This is such a good summer read. Piper and Brendan are also complete polar opposites. Piper is just like this party girl, influencer, socialite, and her stepdad actually sends her off to this small fishing town to kind of grow up after something happens. Kind of reminds me of the plot of Wild Child, the movie, if you guys want to watch that. And Brendan is like, oh god, not one of these like brats, these spoiled brats has come here. She's not going to survive in this small fishing town, but they keep running into each other because it is a small town, obviously. They kind of realize that they actually have a lot in common, more than they expected to, because they both polar opposites, and their romance starts. It is a little bit of a slow burn as well, but it's done so well, and it's just such a fun vibe. Loved this small town. I'm just a sucker for small town romances, so I ate this book up. And last but not least, this actually came as a surprise for me when I was going through like my favorite books, but I had to mention this because it took me by surprise and I really enjoyed it. Normal People by Sally Rooney. Coming from like me when I first added this to my January TBR, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like this because just the way that this book is written, but I enjoyed this so much. I think it's mainly due to the fact that these two characters that we follow are so mundane and so flawed, but I think that's why I ended up really enjoying it, is because they are so real. Like, they're probably one of the most realistic characters that I've ever read about, and there is a lot of miscommunication in this book, which I don't normally like miscommunication, but I feel like the way that this book is written, like the way that you follow these characters throughout like their entire lives, is just so interesting, even though they're so mundane. Also, yes, the writing did take me a while to get into, but once I started getting into it, I was really enjoying the overall story, I guess, because it was sort of relatable in a way. And I don't know, I just appreciated that the story was talking about very flawed characters and throughout their lives. Like, this is very character focused. There's no plot. There's literally no plot to do with this book, which was a worry for me when I first read it, but it ended up being one of my favorites of the year. So I mean, don't knock it till you try it. So anyways, those were all 10 of my favorite books of 2023. I definitely had a very interesting reading year. I mean, I had a lot of reading slumps throughout 2023, but I still found some really good books that I just absolutely adored, and I'm so excited to be sharing this video with you guys. I am also planning to film a worst or most disappointing reads of 2023 video as well, so stay tuned for that because I think that will be interesting. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed watching this video, please give it a huge thumbs up, subscribe to my channel down below. I post new videos every single week, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!